Hi guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast with your hosts Grace and Jade. And we have a returning guest today, royalty, literally. She's up there in the top 5 downloads, but being at the show that we want to review, the Sheru Classic that went ahead this following weekend in the UK. So Hannah Wares is with us. Hey, Han.
Hey, girls.
How are you?
I was gassed because obviously, Jade, you and I spoke in the DMs. And I was like, is it too much to ask if I can come? I was at the show. And literally, you sent the message the same second. I was like, gang.
Literally. We'd had the conversation in the morning, me and Grace. So it was a no-brainer. So you literally asked, and within seconds, Grace, it was like, ding.
Yeah,
like
Hannah is like the biggest fan of the podcast, so like it would be rude not to get her back on. And she was there in the flesh, so exactly. You know, you can kind of tell all, and you saw the lines and details. So before we get into it, what did we think overall, without kind of giving our opinions away too quickly?
Jack's great.
I know, we love Jack.
People should be like Jack.
Yeah, the one thing
more like Jack.
I was sitting with one of the guys. I think his name's Nick, and he is basically the disability categories rep across pros and Olympia. And sorry, I've got a throat swelling because I've lost my voice from shouting at the weekend. And I was saying to him, like, the one thing about Jack is he is so consistent. Mm-hmm. So regardless of whether you agree or disagree with his decisions, when someone comes out on stage, you know the type of thing he's going to be looking for, because his placings are always pretty consistent across the board, whether that's amateur or pro. So I would have said that, like, I mean, when Octavia walked out, I was like, okay, I think she's going to go.
And who was the judge? Who was the judge again for was it the Ben Weider a few months back?
The One Bro Pro show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember who judged it, but very different, very different in terms of awards. Because, like, weirdly, I mean, we'll go through. Yeah. Was it right? Okay, yeah. I mean, I always think that there is a notable difference when there is a USA judge in our sort of remit, anyway. But this particular show, we'll get into it. Second and third, wasn't quite sure where they were going to land. I was actually quite surprised, but other than that, I think Octavia was the right choice. Like, I mean, we've
Octavia. There's no oct.
We're
butchering the names.
There we go. I've started it already. Well, I might as well be consistent. There we are.
Octavia.
Sorry, Octavia.
But apologies. Yeah. No, big up Jack. And it's interesting when we spoke to Adam, I don't think Jack was up there as being like one of the judges that kind of he respected in terms of knowing Bikini. So, you know, he's respected by us now, I guess, on the podcast. So we'll run into it. If I can flick, there we go. So the scorecards are up, and Jade, I think you made a good point that things were kind of moved around last minute with Lisa coming second. So first we had Octavia, second we had Lisa, third we had, I think her name is actually Christina, but it was Christina on the thing. So I think that's wrong. No, Emmy, Steen and Jade Kelsey from the UK. So looking at the scorecards, what was your judgment of that comparatively to, so it's what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, Hannah, you can comment because you were there in person, but those scorecards are equal numbers, but that wasn't the case. Like, watching the lives, what was it like out
there? So Phoebe came to sit down with me because we were right at the front, literally behind the judges. There was a photographer that moved a chair to get closer, and as soon as he was out of it, I was like, I'm gonna nab that. So I literally was right behind the judges. And we were kind of like going back and forth about Christina, and we were like, Christina. God, here we go. I'm reading it and saying it. And I thought she was in for second. And just with Lisa's previous, she might get into the top 5 quite a lot, but she never really gets into the top 3. So when they were moving them around, I was like, I'm pretty sure Christina's in for second. And Phoebe was like, I have a feeling they're going to put her in for third. And Lisa notoriously comes in very dry and very hard. But from what I saw on the day, I would say she'd probably taken that feedback on board and softened up slightly.
Yeah. Because especially fullness from the back, I think that was potentially like going into the placings anyway, but progressively through sort of 6th through to 1st, that fullness from the back and that bubble from the back is more notable, I think, compared to the front shots. And I think that's potentially where Christina and Lisa have been here. And
I spoke to Christina in Alicante. So after my show and Joe's show that day, we went out, pizza, bumped into her at the same restaurant. And she was like, I don't know what to do. They tell me to come in harder, then they tell me to come in fuller. I come in fuller, they place me lower. What am I supposed to do? And she had, prior to that, she'd come in quite hard for quite a few of the shows. I mean, Alicante, she was very lean. And I do think she brought a softer look to the True. So clearly took that feedback on board and it was rewarded. There was a very stark difference on the day with the girls that walked out that were peeled. And because a lot of them had taken that softer look on board, they're obviously looking at the Olympia and going, okay, well, they're clearly looking for a little bit of a softer look. They had taken that on board, because then the girls that were leaner and drier, it really showed.
I was thinking the same. Like, there was a very stark contrast, wasn't there? Like, you could see it, like, even just comparing, we'll see the photos now in a second, but Steen and Jade, like, their back shots, totally different.
Jade
is absolutely peeled. Peeled.
Inside out. But equally, but look, Steen could have done with them off. She probably needed a couple of kilo off.
Yeah. It's such a, we spoke about it to Adam, didn't we? And it's such a fine balance, because what the judges as easy, well, I'm saying easy, as free as they are to say, I want you a little bit fuller or a little bit leaner, like how that translates into actual practical steps in terms of coaching. How many weeks extra dieting you're going to have to do to pull in those like lower tie-ins, and then how much longer you're going to have to take in an off season to build the muscle in order to actually fill it effectively before show. So I think it's a difficult one, but massive differences I saw even in this top 6 in terms of degree of conditioning. So I think the judges are listening, like you said, Hannah, listening to the feedback from the Olympia. They want fuller looks. They want healthier, more obtainable, more achievable fullness. And it's
good. It's following. It's good. It's actually being seen in the UK probably for the first time as well. But before we get into the photos and stuff, is there anybody on the scorecard that you were surprised didn't get into the top 6, or anybody that you were kind of rooting for pre-show?
I know
Laura. I'm looking at Nora was one. Obviously she's been on the scene for quite some time, but also Laura Ziv from Fans, who won, who got her Olympia qualification last year. I'm fairly sure it was at the equivalent show, maybe around the same time or just before. So it's interesting to see her. I'm pretty sure she was in the very last call out. Didn't even get a look in.
4th call out, I think there were 5 call outs. But the last call out was like 4 girls.
I mean, I love Nora, but I think she was I think she was a bit too lean from the videos, at least. Really?
She was. So Laura, I actually spoke to her after the show, because I sent her some pictures and videos that I'd taken. And she said to her, like, even before the show, she was talking to someone else and they said it to me. Obviously I spoke to her afterwards, and she was like, it wasn't my best. Now the problem is with Laura, she always comes in peeled, and they always say to her, it's too hard, it's too lean. So she brings a softer look. I mean, it was probably, if it had been any other girl, you wouldn't have noticed it so much. But because Laura's always peeled, it was more noticeable on her that she was quite a bit softer.
Interesting. Because it almost looked like you could see the detail.
And obviously Sam Minchell, we have to shout out. She did quite well in the Tampa Pro, wasn't it? Second call outs. I think this was a bigger lineup, and she was definitely just like outsized by the look of it. But I'm a big fan of her shape, and I'm excited to see her actually pack on the tissue and fill out that frame. But, you know, a rookie season to look that good.
Yeah.
Pretty epic, you know.
Huh? No, absolutely. Yeah.
No,
didn't
not
look
at
out
all.
as, yeah. I think for Sam, it's just time in the sport more than anything, because she's still a relatively not new to training, but still new to competing as such. So I think, and I know she's natural. Josh said that she's a natural athlete as well. So to be getting in that kind of condition with that bubble, like that's genetics. That's genetic bliss to have that kind of bubble and that pop to your physique without any sort of, I don't know, anything that's going to help achieve that look, I suppose. But yeah, I think
also
time
her third NPC show, wasn't it? Tampa Pro. Like that is absolutely mental when you think of it like that.
Wild.
Like that doesn't happen to many people.
She did the regional down in 2 bros, and she got second. Then she went to Italy and
Portugal.
Pro. Italy, Portugal.
Yeah.
Crazy
story. Time in the sport. Time in the sport for her is just gonna, like, she's just gonna catapult up.
For sure.
Deadly. Okay, we have our top 4 confirmations here. Awkward angle.
Yeah,
the photographer was Mannion there. Jim Mannion, was he there?
Yes.
So was he taking these? I'm actually
That's
surprised he was there. Fair play to him.
No, it's honestly, like, I think it must have been you stealing his seat, Hannah, because he was on the right hand side, and then for finals and like for prejudging, he was on one side and switched to the other. But yeah, no, it's nice actually. You can see, I mean, especially the front shots there. It'll be interesting to get into the physiques and things like that. But like, generally speaking, those top 4, a lot of muscle mass. There is a lot of muscle on those girls. They are not slight frames at all.
No.
But the one thing I thought when I was kind of watching the show is, if you take Christina out of it, they're all very similar, like shape, height. They're similar in like muscle mass and condition. Like it was picking between hairs, really. There's a slight difference in like what I would say is like the density of the glute there. But like they're all fairly similar in size. If anything, Atavia has one of the smaller sets of glutes out of the 4 of them.
Yeah. The fullness from the back, though, for me, she turned around and I was like, sold. Done. Because strong front, I think all 4 girls really have a strong front shot, like glute shape, even probably with the exception of Christina, she's a little bit more slight in the quad, but for her frame, she has a decent amount of muscle through the front. But the tell for me, it must have been a battle of the back shots, because that's where you just see the differences, albeit slight. But Atavia just, she turned around.
It's her X-frame, isn't it, though? Like, and her posing is so polished, like that nothing really looks out of place, and it is like that Maureen look that you don't really see any flaws. I didn't see many flaws with her physique, because even I was thinking, was her back shot too lean? But when I saw the kind of clear photos, you're like, oh my god, it was actually perfect. Do you know what they were kind of go criteria wise?
Like Adam says, she has the adductor, she's got that tie-in, but it's not etched. I mean, you've kind of just gone on to Jade there. Fan of Jade's physique, but she was the definition of etched.
Yes. Now, can I just say, her improvements are absolutely mega, and this is probably the first time I've really, really seen it and been like, I've always obviously admired her, but this is the best I've seen her. You know, when I saw her checking photos, I think that Cuba put up or something, I was like, who is that? Like, I actually didn't even know who it was. I was that impressed. So the improvements she's made in the last year are absolutely epic. But yeah, that rear shot is just slightly too etched, and obviously the hamstring detail that you can see here, you know, really, really clear. But I think her front, like from the front, there isn't much. Obviously her delts as well, but I think that's maybe a filling up thing. You know, she could come in a tiny bit flatter there.
I do think it's potentially a peaking thing for Jade. I mean, she's been in the mix, like since she turned pro, she's been placing top 6. Like, I don't think this is the first show really. I mean, she placed top 6 in the, but she didn't actually get a medal. But I know that her history over the last couple of shows, at least, like she's been placing, especially in the European shows and things. So muscle wise, I mean, she's strong in the gym as well. I don't know whether you've ever seen her train, but she's strong as hell. So muscle is there. I think it's just like you say, maybe a peaking thing, like filling her up that little bit more, because it just, comparative to the winner and comparative to the girls who placed above her, it's just, she lacks the fullness. And she is quite a petite athlete in terms of like shoulder to sort of hip ratio. She doesn't have a crazy X frame. She is petite. She's quite, if anything, up and down. That muscle development that she's worked so hard for gives her that incredible shape. So it'd be interesting to see her a little bit fuller, a little bit softer, maybe.
You could arguably afford to spill.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at this point, it's not going to hurt, is it? Like,
she could spill a little bit, not pump up her upper, because actually, I've worked a lot of pro shows now. Very few of the pros, bikini, pump their upper. They're all just pumping their glutes. So she could just
her glutes are full as hell here, like from what I can see, you know, and they're like what Adam talks about, like they are capped. You can see that indent, do you know, the kind of way it's
very capped.
Very capped. It's just a bit too, I think the direction that bikini is going in now, especially the reinforcement of that look that they're trying to achieve and pulling away from that leaner etched physique, which is figure, that kind of conditioning is reserved for those categories. I think that's the only reason. But like physically, in terms of her shape and her presentation and things like that, I think she actually posted that she'd had some posing feedback as well, which would be interesting.
Like brilliant physique, but it's just that tiny little percentage now to get into the bikini criteria, you know, that they're looking for, the finer details as well. Fan of the suit color? Are you a fan of the suit color?
I think it really suits her.
Is it navy?
I like green.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the navy, I have to say. That's just my opinion.
I think I think you've got to be careful with the suit color, right? Because it should pop and it should be like standing out. However, in this case, I looked at it and I was like, it really complements her. And it's different. It's a very unique blue.
Like a navy.
It's nice.
Gray.
I like it.
Well done, Jade. Anyway, she's representing the UK and she got top 6. She's the only UK athlete in the top as well. So, you know, like you said, Jade, she's always in the mix, you know. So obviously, well done.
Always, just a matter of time.
Steen as well, another one that's always in the mix. Like 2 very different looks. Like if you're watching on YouTube, like you can see how like that looks like 2 different classes. You know, I always see people commenting that there should be like an athletic bikini, kind of like what PCA do, like an athletic bikini and then like a beach bikini, and that would be like the difference. Pick it out. It's crazy. I love Steen's physique though. Her shape as well. Like I do think she's a little bit on the lower muscular side, would you say? Or is it just kind of because she brings a little bit softer looks that way?
No, because I
really love her
front
shot. I love her front shot.
I think as well, she's got a lot of flexion in her lower back.
100%.
Kind of reminds me of, because she's so tall, kind of like Jasmine Jeffrey. Kind of like shape. The length of her legs as well.
Very much in that front shot. Lovely little lovely lat insertion that really emphasizes the tiny little waist. And she poses very flat on the ab as well. Whereas a lot of girls are more willing to sacrifice a bit of that small waist to twist it round so that they've got more of that X frame. She's obviously twisted that all the way and you've got that oblique coming down really nicely. And that's probably to maximize the glute there as well.
Sorry, I just wanted to compare the delts as well. Like you can see the difference. And how
the capping.
They're still quite hard, but
you can almost see the graininess through Jade. I mean, hats off to her for getting that lean, but I think that's been the difference between 6th and 5th, I think, from a conditioning standpoint, because they're not too dissimilar in terms of actual physiques, like strong glutes, and they've got quite a similar like glute shape really. I just think Steen, like you say, poses with that little bit more flexion, lower back flexion compared to Jade. But yeah, it's I do like Steen's physique. Like she's won quite a few pro shows, hasn't she, as well?
Yeah, she's been to the Olympia a few times, but I just don't know. I feel like the last couple of years she hasn't been able to kind of keep up with it, maybe. Like I know she was around like a few years ago and she was getting to the Olympia. I don't know if she did last year, or maybe she got in at points at the very end.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting
the way they've changed it, whether she gets to the Olympia again.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
We'll leave the Instagrams for now. Going through the Instagrams, we'll go through these girls. Noemi, I love her physique. Now, I'd never really seen her back shot like this before, and when I saw it, I was like, holy Lord, that is a heavy back shot.
Yeah.
Like, if you compare her to first, like, the proportions are just a bit off, I think. Like, from the front, you wouldn't even notice it because it's the way she flares her lats and her delts, but from the back, when her hands are down, like, you really, really see it's just very impressive. But I just think maybe the glutes are a bit big, or maybe she could pose in a way that makes her upper body look a little bit wider, like she does in her front shot as well.
It looks like she might actually be like pushing really heavily into those hamstrings, because the hamstring detail on a back shot actually she could afford to not push that hard, really. Because for her like size as well, like there's a lot of muscle mass on there, so I don't think in terms of muscle development, I think she's pretty much at a cap now. I wouldn't like to see any more muscle on that frame, really, because I think she'd be pushing into wellness at that point, I think. Because her legs are quite very developed. But yeah, I wonder if softening that back pose a little bit, maybe not pushing as heavily into her hamstrings, might soften it a little bit. And to be honest, she probably wouldn't compensate much for that upper glute as well, because it's full. Like, I don't think it'd hurt her.
About her feet, she's showing a fair bit of quad there. And like if her feet were slightly closer together, maybe toes not so turned out.
And that upper glute would kind of
big, but it would just not look so dominant. Because if we're talking about balance, like, it's a beautiful physique, you can't deny that.
I love it, and I love the pink suit as well. Why can't I get into the links?
Like, looking at that front shot, her midsection's lovely as well.
Very
like you
tight.
say, you turn around and the glutes just are dominant.
Yeah, massively. I mean, even that quad from the front as well, really. I mean, she's got a similar quad shape from the front to like the likes of Amy Delgado, like maybe earlier on in the season, that bubble, that like sort of curve at the front. I've got it. I know it because I've got it and I can't get rid of it. But like that shape that sort of almost makes your leg look too like 3D from the front. So yeah, like you're right, Hannah. I think posing from the back as well, maybe even pulling her toes in. And leaning
a little bit in. It'd just be interesting, and it might be on our gram, to be fair. But it'd be interesting just to see.
Can't get the thing up. I'm sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty here. Can't get it up for the life of me. Here, let me just go in
and copy and paste.
Yeah, I don't know what is the story here. What's her name? Emmy?
Noemi Cosentino.
This always brings me to Paul Revelia's page.
We're super fans. What can we say?
I don't know why it's always on Paul Revelia's page.
Joking.
Literally.
No,
patiently waiting for Deraja to post.
Stop.
That's what
I know. No, I think it's Emmy Fish. Sorry.
Noemi Cosentino. Yeah. Oh
no. Sorry. Let's do this.
EMY fit. Can you like copy and paste the actual?
Yeah, there we go. Never had that issue before. But yeah, on her Instagram, I nearly thought she was going to take it. But it's interesting when you see them stand up against everyone, and her transformation is insane as well. I don't know if you looked at this, like her off-season shape is pretty mega. Like,
wow, look at that. Jeez.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd never think.
She's got
so much muscle.
Yeah.
The lats, like look at the size. It reminds me of the Italian girl, is it Francesca Stoico, like that kind of massive lat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
genetically like really wide clavicles, really wide.
That's a big FU to the don't go 5 pounds above your stage weight, because
I know. But that's why when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, there's hope for all of us. And that's what's lying underneath.
Yeah.
But yeah,
absolutely.
Incredible Physique.
Yeah. Big fan, like placings aside, big fan of her physique overall. I think it's lovely.
Just so much work, right? Like you look at it and think, geez, you work for that. Like every inch of it, every inch. I mean, look, oh my God, look at the delts on her.
Yeah, I think she can really pull off that kind of like extra muscular look. It's just that when you see the glutes then on stage compared to everyone, it is just overpowering then, you know. So you gotta go with what everybody else is doing. But
I think it's one of those physiques, isn't it? That's just hers. Like it's a statement. Yeah. Like it's just hers. Nobody else has got one. It's hers. And when you look at it, you know exactly who it is. It's hard to replicate that. It's very hard to replicate, which is probably why it's working in her favor. I mean, she placed 4th up against a strong lineup. What was it, 24 girls?
Yeah. Probably one of the biggest ones, Hannah. I don't know, like
it's huge.
compared to the other ones that you've obviously handed the medals out at?
The ones
standard wise as well.
You've had like, I don't know, 3 call-outs max. This was 5 call-outs. As in, sorry, because you have the girls on in rounds. So they bring out a group, send off, bring the next group, and it went 5 groups. Which, crazy.
Yeah, huge lineup. It's so nice to see that, just as an aside before we get into third as well, like to actually see the UK pro scene like building like that, because even at the Arnold, and I know the Arnold's invite only and stuff, but like the Arnolds and things like that was our first real proper exposure to a pro show, or they started weaning in, but then in terms of actually getting those names there, obviously Ashley Kay was there, so it's nice to see as many pros turning up, because I know the classic Physique pro show as well was stacked. So shout out to Ian if you're listening for getting all of these pros over.
Oh, and Hannah, like I meant to ask, I was chatting to Ross about it, what was the lighting like actually in person? Because from the photos it didn't look too bad, but I heard it if we're going to comment or
I think like it definitely could have been better. However, it's one of those things, right? Like you're in the XL, which is like an expo center, and there's only so much you can do with the lighting. Like for example, the stage had sides and a back. It didn't have a top. So you had all of the light from everything else flooding in, and then there was like a setup of the lights coming down as if you'd have in a theatre around the front.
Right, okay.
And I think like the light probably was just kind of like diagonally bang on the athlete.
Okay.
In the theatre, you would have had it from all different sides and above. I think having a little bit more control over that probably would have helped. But I wouldn't have said it was bad, but it wasn't the best.
I thought from the photos it looked pretty decent. And even when I saw like the wellness girls, I feel like when you see people with more muscle as well, you can really tell. So I didn't think it looked that bad. But anyway, just wanted to get your opinion, because Ross.
And the other thing is we're seeing it from like the photo being like bang on, aren't we? Whereas from the audience, whether you're standing far side standing up, or whether you're sitting at the back, or whether you're sitting bang at the front, you're all seeing it from a different perspective.
Definitely. Okay, Christina, I was up against her in an overall in 2021 and she didn't even get a look in.
Really?
Yep.
Claim to fame.
I still to this day I'm like, I stood beside her, but it was mad. It was 2021 in Empro Classic, and she was the tallest high class and I was the one just below, and both of us were just at the very end, didn't even get a look in. And it was the week after that show, or 2 weeks after, that she won her pro card and qualified for the Olympia.
Wow.
A week or 2 weeks after, and she didn't even get a look in beside me. It was crazy.
Insane.
It was crazy.
Who was it who did her prep that year? Because I remember her prep being quite.
I think it was someone from where she was from. No, I think it was someone from where she was from. But it was the maddest thing to happen, to like not even get a look in. But also I'm quite proud because I didn't look too bad next to her. She had a little bit more glute development, but for two tall girls, like, didn't look too bad. Now the progress she's made has been like 10 times as much as me, clearly, but it's epic to see her, you know, in the mix all the time now. Glutes have grown so much. As I said, she is a taller athlete, so to be able to hold her own in the glute department is pretty epic. Now, I have my opinion on her posing, and I don't know if you guys agree. That is the only thing that's actually thrown me off with her placings. Is the third. Now, I think the judges definitely, I think they overlook that to a degree. Maybe she placed higher if maybe she might have got second if she improved her posing. I know it's something that people have touched on before. Her front pose mainly.
A front pose to me, not to be. Who am I? But this is but it looks offset. Yeah, like it looks honestly her upper body. So if you're gonna cut it, because we cut it like down and then we cut it across. If you're gonna cut it across, for me, her upper body's more overpowering in that front shot. And considering the glute development that she's worked so hard for, clearly, that pose isn't helping her in my eyes.
If you're talking about that balance between the upper and lower, she's clearly got the hip flexion because you can see it coming through there. You can see it in the glute sweep. You can see it in that oblique cut-in. So if she just changed her foot placement, because they're very, very close together. So changed her foot placement, hinged her hip a little backwards. And then if you look at her rear shoulder, it's sat almost behind her rib. So if she sat that over a little bit more and set it above her rib, she then sit forward instead of leaning back ever slightly. She'd be forward and on top of herself, and then she'd have that balance between them, I think. Because drop the hand down.
Because shape wise as well, like clavicle size, like no denying that she's got the hourglass shape there. I just think, like you said, she's pushing back almost, like that is offsetting her glutes. It's making her glutes look smaller than her upper body, which I don't think is the case. I just think it's just a bit
and I just feel like this leg is just doing all sorts. This foot is this way, but the knee is going in and the hip is this, and it's not helping her at all. And like you said, Jade, like, she has the glutes, she has the balance, but you don't see it here at all. There's just a lot going on, and I know every time I watch her, because obviously I'm a big fan of her after seeing her come so far, when she's posing and like she kind of like jerks a little bit and she's like sitting into it, rather than it being like really flowy, do you know, the kind of way like Maureen that just flows into it. You can see her kind of getting into the pose, and same with the back pose as well. So I think if she can get to work on that, I do think she could potentially qualify for the Olympia if she keeps going the way she's going, do you know, because the judges like her. They do. You know, she's always in that top 2 and 3, and I think she was quite disappointed with this. I'd say she thought she was going to hire. I'm fairly sure she could have got second at was there another pro show? The Big Man, was it that one, Jade? You might remember.
I think
Big Man, she came second.
Yes,
So like, she's in the mix. The judges like her. So I just think it's the posing thing that is really letting her down.
I mean,
things, you know, posing's such a big thing.
Especially at this level, like, it's hairlines, isn't it? Like, even the back pose as well, her elbows, hands seem to be sitting quite high. So maybe it'd be interesting to see what would happen with more relaxed, more natural looking posing, like even the arm at the side as well, pulling it down, just taking the emphasis off here, because she doesn't need to grow, she doesn't need to emphasize or like grow into her posing, because I know a few people were talking about sort of with the smaller physiques especially, you can like make yourself look larger with your posing, but she really doesn't need to do that. I think from a muscularity standpoint as well, I don't think she needs much more on her frame. I mean, we can always get glutes, but like the glutes are big for her frame.
You see there, she's got that hip flexion, lovely.
Tiny waist, like literally absolutely tiny. But it's just the posing thing. It's kind of distracting a little bit. Condition, what are we saying from the back comparatively to the other girls?
I think her condition actually is probably perfect. However, because obviously the posing changes ever so slightly every time that they go through a round. In that picture that you've got from the show, it looks a little bit leaner than if you go back to the first slide on your presentation. It doesn't look that so. I think it's just that point in time, because actually I would say that her condition was bang on compared to the other girls.
Yeah.
See what I mean
I
about
actually,
sorry, Jake, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying about the posing thing. It's almost like a bit distracting, but I think you're dead right. I do think the condition is fairly good.
Perfect from the back, like nice round, sort of hamstrings, round glutes, not too etched in like we've already seen in some athletes and stuff. Not too much condition. It's there, but the bottom isn't absolutely pinned in. I think perfect presentation otherwise in terms of the actual physique. I think if she can nail the balance in her posing and be consistent, like you said, Hannah, from pose to pose. I mean, they worked them pretty hard from what we could see as well on the live.
Jack always does.
Yeah. They were there for ages.
There she was against Mr. Big Evolution. There you go.
You just see it again there in that pose. She's sitting behind her hips. Like, I don't know if either of you two danced as a child, but
yes,
the dance teacher always says, string from the top of your head, pull up.
Yeah.
Stack,
is this girl? Stack. This girl looks like she's doing it as well.
Yeah.
But this girl is standing up a lot taller. Yeah, it's leaning back. But what is that? Is that
second from the right? That's bang on.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is it though? Are they trying to make the glute pop a little bit more, leaning into it, or where is it coming from?
It might be.
Oh, go on. I used to teach girls to pose, didn't I? And it's like that thing of pushing the glute forward. So they're trying to push the hip forward to make the glute bigger, but in doing so, they lean back. And that's where then often you'll see someone kind of stumbles with their balance or whatever it may be. But it's just that you're so focused on trying to push the glute forward and try and make it bigger that you forget that it's actually just stand
on.
Make sure you stack it above your ribs.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. But yeah, rooting for her anyways.
Beautiful, yeah.
I'd say she had that like such a big win when she turned pro. I'd say everything is just like hard after that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I'd say it's the same like with Sam as well. Do you know that it was like pro card very, very soon, and then all of a sudden you're at the very, very bottom of the pile. It's a difficult thing to do, to manage that mindset. But
loved the suit color as well before we move on.
It's
gorgeous.
It suits her.
Yeah, it really does.
Lisa Reith. She was a bit of a dark horse, I think. Remember we did the last review. We hadn't actually heard of her much, Jade, but I think she's been on the scene for quite some time. Hannah, you knew of her, did you?
Yes,
for a while.
Yeah, I've met her. And every time I've seen her, either in person or at shows, she's always been very hard, very dry.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see her in that top lineup and fitting in condition wise. It was a little bit heartbreaking, I have to be honest. Like when they were calling top 2, I looked over at her and she was looking up, eyes closed, and her chin going, and you could tell that she was like, am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? And I was recording it just in case she got it.
Yeah.
And then when she didn't, she just went. And honestly, my heart broke for her.
She seems lovely. I love her back shot. I really, really do. I think that's like pretty spot on bikini, you know?
Yeah.
Like she's got the tie-ins, but it's not too lean, you know, got the taper. I do think it's potentially just the front pose. And I think she's definitely toned it down from when we saw her compete last. And I remember we thought it was very, very hard and dense looking. I still think it could be dense. I still think it could, just from the front, I still think it's a posing thing. I think she could just bend that front knee a little bit less and just bring that hand down a little bit more and just balance out those proportions, because she does it in the back pose absolutely perfectly.
She's losing this front shoulder as well with the way that she's posing. I mean, it might even be intentional because they look, I mean, from the back, they don't like that back shoulder doesn't look too capped. It doesn't look too big. And you usually see that through the back, don't you? If the shoulders are a little bit developed and they're trying to hide them as such, like we saw it with Ashlyn. I think she won, was it the Tampa Pro? Is it? No. Yeah. No, a recent one. And she covered her back shoulder.
Yes, it was the Tampa Pro. Yeah.
So strategic, but like gorgeous shape. I mean, not too much detail through the legs as well, which, like you say, compared to her previous showings and how lean and how hard she's looked, gorgeous. Really, and it suits her.
Incredibly dense. She's incredibly dense. She's not the biggest girl I've seen. Like, don't get me wrong, she is packing some muscle, but like in person, I mean, these pictures don't do it any justice to how truly dense she is.
Yeah. It's muscle maturity though, isn't it? That's what I was just gonna say. Like, she looks a little bit older. I don't know when we looked at her Instagram before, if I saw kids, or maybe I don't want to assume, but she definitely looks older, and like she's been training for a period of time. Like, she's done her squats, you can tell with those legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think fair play to her for taking on board the feedback from the last show and bumping it up, because I think she could have been maybe third or fourth at the last one. I don't know if she'd got as close to top two, but no, fair play to her. But
100%.
Yeah, big fan of her physique.
Fab. Right.
Beautiful.
Miss Otavia. I think she's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just that sultry look, that kind of Laura Lee look about her as well. I just think it's absolutely fabulous. And yeah, like we said at the start, when she walked out, you kind of just knew it was the stage presence combined with the physique and that kind of sultry look and the black hair, blue suit. It all complemented her incredibly well.
Yeah. I mean, physique wise,
physique is just stunning, isn't it?
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's the tiny waist and the way she's sitting into her hip here, and it's effortless. It's an effortless kind of look. That's
that shot from the front, that transition from the front, like that hourglass shape, like it's just there, like very, very natural. Like all her curves sort of flow, her physique flows, everything's tight. The conditioning was perfect. I don't think she could have done anything else to bring a better package, because I know she's had a bit of time off, hasn't she?
Maybe since the Olympia. I remember she won the France show last year. That's what qualified her for the Olympia. I think this is actually at here. Was Jack the head judge there as well? I just wanted to compare her physique last year to now in terms of condition. It looks fairly similar. It was the Yamamoto Cup, actually, wasn't it? Were you working at that, Hannah?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. So you've seen her in the flesh a few times.
Yeah. But in France, interestingly, they worked those girls, like you thought that they worked them hard at the true. My God. Round after round after round in France. And she was not in the mix the whole way through for first. She was moved in and out quite a few times. And then it seemingly seemed like the last confirmation round, they just were like, yeah, okay, let's go for her. But I would say compared to France, the look for the true was quite a bit leaner.
Yeah, a bit leaner, but still bikini. Like, I don't think she was pushing the boundaries at all.
Absolutely not.
Her shape has just improved massively, even from the back. You can see it so much.
Yeah.
So she's definitely going to be bringing a much better package to the Olympia this year. That's for sure. But no, very, very impressed by her.
Yeah, I think conditioning wise, I think she nailed it. Like that back shot's beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely
really
stunning. But even from the front, because she has come in quite lean before, and you can see a little bit of definition, like on the so there you can see a bit of definition through that back leg, so where her quad sort of sweeps over the top. A few of the photos showed that. I don't know whether you could see that in person, Hannah, but not too much. I think if she got any leaner, I think that would be far too much detail through the back. But
you can really see the density of their lower halves here. We got to get to work, ladies.
I'm going
you
squatting.
Really see it, like, oh my Lord, I can only imagine. Huh?
Said I'm retiring. You can carry on.
Hey, better not.
Oh God, yeah, but she's got an awesome X frame, really and truly. And I love her taper, so yeah, big fan.
Admire with the girls. If you look at all of the girls that are in the top 6 here, I like to look at their midsections, because I think if you look at Otavia's midsection, she's got the outline of the rib without it being ribby. And you can just see, if you look at her front shot, you can just see it's almost like she's kind of pulled her abs in together. Whereas if you look at Christina's front shot, she's not got that tight ab pull.
Yeah.
It's just got that protruding ab, and then she's got the lines down the middle, but it's not got that tight cinched, that Laura Lee tight cinched ab, you know?
Yeah. That's a genetic thing, surely, isn't it? Like, there's no amount of vacuums or like posing. I just feel like
it's also about how you pose it. So it's like, pull your ab in, and that's when you get a tiny bit of rib, and then you kind of tense it to smooth it over.
Yeah.
Obviously is really hard to do, especially when they pose you for as long as they do. But that's like the main thing that stood out about her waistline, is aside from the fact that it was tiny and like you've got that lovely lat insertion coming through, and just the way she posed her arm there flows really nicely with the shape of her body. The way that she's holding her midsection, like even if you look at that front transition, it's just smooth. It's just
so smooth.
Like, so it's almost like she's pushing her abs to the front in order to, like, not, it's the opposite of vacuuming. It's almost like a bracing thing, but she still managed to keep it all tight. Impressive. I mean, that's it though, isn't it? When you're a professional athlete, the reality of it is those are the details that is going to set you aside from the girl to the left or to the right. Like, if you're a professional, should you have a handle on that? Yeah, probably. Should you be paying attention to that? Yeah.
I love.
You'd like to think so.
I like the full diamante across the back.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
Jordan. Yeah, Jordan Lee had one as well, I think, at the Arnold's, and it's so, like, the detail's so nice.
Like, it definitely stands out.
She was the only one out of all of the girls to have it, and I remember seeing it and I go, oh, I've never seen that before. I like that.
Fab. I
wonder if it's a Toxic Angel thing, because I'm pretty sure they do things like that. Toxic Angel bikinis out in the US. Very nice though. Nice little detail.
I'm glad that you did this. I was going to say a minute ago, nice to see her next to Maureen.
Thank Jade for that. Very, very.
It was the back shot for me. It was the back shot for me that I thought she's nailed that. Like, because obviously the bodies are always going to look different. They're going to carry the bikini look criteria slightly differently. But this is quite honestly the closest I've seen to that bubble from the back. From a muscle sort of development standpoint, I still feel like for Maureen looks like she's stacking much more, but obviously she's much shorter. But from the back, condition wise, bubble, that glute fullness from the top, the tie-ins, everything about her back shot, I was just like, that looks like Maureen's win. That looks like it. And I was blown away by it, really.
Just Maureen's got a little bit more depth to the glute, hasn't she? It's the same bubble, but like if you look into the adductors insert there into the glute, but again, could be a little bit opposing because Octavia's adductors look bigger.
Yes.
Maureen's glute just looks more 3D out from there, but equally, if you then look at like the quad coming around the side, Maureen's quad looks far smaller in the rear shot, but bigger in the front shot.
Yeah, it's mad. But look at how her toes are pointed out. But you don't get much quad at all. It's interesting. They've got it down to an absolute T, don't they? Of how to pose for their bodies. But yeah, I was very, very impressed by this. Really,
just the emotion for Octavia as well, winning. Like, you could see it, and oh my god, I was bawling. I was like, I really need to stop doing this because I get really emotional when somebody wins. But like it was amazing. And you could tell how much it meant, you know? So it's
incredible.
Like when you see the chins going, you're like, oh, draw me out.
I know. And it was the breathing. I was like, oh, it's okay, hold it together. Like,
I know.
I was gone, but she had to hold it together, so it's fine.
It just means so much to them, you know, and they're happy to get the qualification. You know, it's such a big thing. But epic stuff. All right, shout out to Miss Kirsty Rose Taylor. Hannah, I know you're very, very good friends with her, so tell us, what is it? I know she's been competing for 10 years. Am I right in saying that?
I also would say that overall she's not been rewarded, in my opinion. Like she's come away from a lot of shows and just been like I spoke to her and she was just like, what am I doing wrong? And do you know what? She wasn't going to do this show. So we were chatting after her qualifier and she was like, Richie being her coach, Richie's telling me I've got to do the true. Like, I think it was 8 weeks or something from her regional to the true. And she was like, I just don't know if what's the point? Like,
she did your regional.
Sorry?
I'm so sure she did she won the overall at your regional, the one that you did.
No, I did the condition.
I'm so sure that's the one she was. It
No,
not this
the
one?
RL. It was RL coaching.
Oh, apologies. I thought it was the one, but yeah, it probably would have been around that same time frame. Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't too dissimilar in time. And we were chatting, and she was just like, "What's the point?" And I said to her, I was like, "Don't think about a week, 2 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is. Just day by day. You'll be here before you know it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Turn pro.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I was like, what are you going to do differently? You're going to eat a little bit more food from now till then. Just do it. Don't be silly.
Mad. Absolutely mad. And has she been competing with the IFBB for the last 10 years?
I don't know if she's done anything else, but I know she's been doing the rounds with the IFBB. Natural athlete as well. Like, she did the Two Bros Natural a couple years back. Did pretty well in that, but again came off stage and she was just like, what am I doing wrong? And I was like, look, just speak to the judges. Like, you just ask them, you know?
Yeah. That's impressive though for natural. Like, and again, muscle maturity is so big, but
and a mum.
Yeah.
She's a mum.
Crazy. Yeah. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I just about get myself up, dressed to work, back to the gym, fed, just about manage that. Add a child into a prep or children. There's multiple children. Like this, honestly, the respect that I have for athletes. That
and her coach is a mum as well.
Yeah. Lucy's a pro, isn't she?
Yeah. I honestly just think that's another level of dedication and responsibility. Like, mega delighted for her. Do you know, when I see somebody who's been competing that long, I'm like, well deserved. And especially, do you know, if she's gotten to the stage where she's questioned, you know, hanging up her heels or whatever it is, it's incredible to see that, you know, people finally getting rewarded for their hard work for so long. Incredible physique, really, really nice. And I like what I remember speaking to Jade about.
And she just looks in great kind of shape, you know, like she's not having to pose too hard there to just bring that lovely X frame.
Yeah.
But you can tell as well, like you can tell that structurally, don't get me wrong, structurally, like that waist, and very similar actually to what we've just said about Ottavia's like stomach and her waistline. Her waistline's very tight, very neat, nothing flaring, no ribs or anything like that. It does look very natural. But that kind of development and that kind of dedication, I mean, look at that transformation there. That she wasn't born with that, the one next to it. Look at that. Like look at that.
So that was so that was 38 weeks ago. So that was when she was 31 on the right. So 2013 to now, 10 years ago. So this is when she was 21.
I mean, they have been saying that the girls are coming into their own and their best athletes around their 30s at the minute. Even on the Olympia stage, you're seeing more and more athletes competing mid-30s, even towards the late 30s, and that muscle maturity and density that they built over training years and things like that are now finally standing up against, because the looks changed so much and developed so much that commitment and dedication to training over that length of time is actually showing and is being rewarded now. But good on her.
Her upper body is pretty jacked here though for her first show. Like, that's a pretty big back for first year competing.
Amazing. Yeah.
No, she's still got good glutes. I've obviously seen worse, you know. first show. Oh god. The posing as well back then is hilarious. But no, very, very nice. Very, very nice shape. And will she continue on into the pro leagues now, Hannah, do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I think she'll take some time. Like, I don't think she'll, to coin a phrase, do a Marnie. I don't think she'll like jump into shows straight away. I think she'll take some time. And I think like when you are a mum and that, you're probably like, right, time to be a mum for a bit, you know?
Yeah.
I could be misjudging that entirely, but
you couldn't blame her for it though, could you? Like, from like you say, it's such a massive sort of commitment and it's such a massive sacrifice. Her family, albeit clearly supportive, from the posts that we can see, like there's only so much that people can continue to keep giving, and you want to give back as well. So I think it'd be nice. just for her to find her feet as well and digest it all. Because if she's had that sort of mindset leading into this show, it's so ironic because so many people that we've spoken to as well have not necessarily gone in with the I am going to win mindset. They've been like, oh, is this my time? Is it not? We spoke to Emily Olivia, like the last episode. She said exactly the same thing. She was a season prior to that. She was like, no, I'm done. I'm done. Like that's the end of me. So it's interesting that on the brink of like sort of questioning where she was at and whether she wanted to do this or whether she was going to be competitive, bam, changes.
I think the other thing to remember, and this was pointed out to me by one of the coaches after my shows earlier this year, was you can go and do a UK regional and look at the top UK pros, bikini pros. None of them really ever won an overall.
No.
Then they go to Europe and it's rewarded. You can't like just go, well, I didn't get what I wanted at the regional. And I think it's quite naive to say, well, I didn't do well at the regional, so I'm gonna give it up. Because you've got to get in front of different people and see.
Yeah. Like what Adam says, like when the judges are there, like use them.
Yeah.
You'd be mad if you know Jack was over here or even Tyler to not get in front of them. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we are still learning a lot from a UK judging standpoint. Like get the USA judges out here, and obviously the more and more we do it, the more I feel like we are catching up. But albeit we have been favouring different looks compared to the US. So if you have the opportunity to get in front of the likes of Jack or anybody else, Tyler or Attila or whoever, you get that opportunity. Like the feedback's invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day is different. So show up anyway.
Yeah. Well, massive congratulations to Kirsty. Very well deserved, and welcome to the Pro League.
And I love the black suit.
Yes, the black suit with the blonde hair is just so unique. Really, really nice. She pulls it off so well. Yeah. But that is it, guys. Very, very long. Had to be with Hannah Wares on, of course.
Sorry, I'm too much of a talker.
You're doing well considering.
Yeah, my voice was not here this morning. It's probably going to be gone after this, but I've been hammering the throat lozenges and everything, so
you better be tracking them now, Hannah, or I'll be telling us.
Off-plan meal?
Yeah.
It's great. Health.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll definitely get you on again. Defo. And do you want to let people in on your exciting plans with your pod? Or secret?
No,
or will we wait to find out? They got to the end, so we got to give them a little something.
So if anyone hasn't listened over the last few years, I've been doing my own podcast, the Pocket Rocket podcast, where it's a kind of like a life stories. I don't know if you watch Piers Morgan's life stories. It's kind of like that, just less invasive and abusive at times. And it's just more like, let's learn a bit about you as a person, not just about you as a bodybuilder. So we do go through like health, competitive history, family, jobs, everything. But we also kind of just talk a little bit about mindset, and people do open up on it. So I've done a number of series. And then when I got into prep, I just finished Pandora's Box, which was all geared around female health. Gear, no pun intended. But it was a lot about female health, and that was off the back of my own problems with my cycle and things like that. So it's been on hiatus for a while, but now I've got food back in my system and I am sleeping and I can string a sentence together. I'm coming back with a couple of series that I've got planned out at the moment, which if I can pull it off with the people I'm going to ask, with the connections I've built in the industry.
Yes, let's go.
Insane. So
let's go. It'll be worth the wait. It will be worth the wait. We can't wait. But thanks so much for coming on. And sure we'll catch up very, very soon.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast, guys. And please make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And
don't butcher us for the pronunciations. Thank you.
I know.